and welcome to another episode of Influence and Growth Mastery. Today, I have another very special guest with me. I think you're going to love her, especially those of you that are in finance. And so her name is Njoki Karoki. She is the CEO of Be the Bank Consulting. I love the name of your business. I met her through Alignable. Many of you know I love and promote Alignable. It's a networking platform. If you're not already there, you need to join that platform. I have met so many people, as you know, that I've brought onto my podcast, many great entrepreneurs and people that I have built what I know are going to be lifelong relationships with. But Njoki, I'm so excited to have you here with me. Again, I love the name of your business, Be the Bank Consulting. And I want you to share a little bit about yourself and then about how you transitioned from teaching, this is amazing, CPR and first aid, which is so different from the finance world, into diving into the financial services. And what sparked this amazing career change for you?
Well, Tanya, thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. And yes, I would be delighted to share. So I'm originally from Kenya. I've been here for a very long time. And I fell into teaching CPR and First Aid and absolutely loved it. Really teaching people how to prepare to save lives and kind of taking that fear out of saving a life. It's very empowering, helping empower people to be able to be comfortable to do that. It's not a fun subject to teach, but I've always had fun with it. I like to remind people, if you are performing CPR on somebody, just remember they're already dead. You can't make them more dead. So it's okay. Do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Call for help and they'll be okay. After doing that for a while, I started looking into more entrepreneurship, and I met a friend and I was helping him, and he was in financial services. And he said, "You'll be doing this one day." And I said, "No, I'm not." But I kept helping him because we were building a team. And eventually one day I was praying because I felt led that this might be the path to take. And a few minutes after praying, I saw on my kitchen table, there was a meat thermometer with the name Kaizen on it. And Kaizen is one of our main products, which is the 5-year retirement plan. And it was like, God was like, there you go. There's your answer to your prayer. Now do what you need to do. So
isn't it amazing how he gives us those signs?
Yes. And I had been praying and that sign came up. I went to make copies of something, and a street, or it was a company a few blocks away from me, also had the same name. And so he kept confirming that this was the right choice. He kept confirming it. And so I finally gave in and I got my license about 3 weeks after that. And since then, I have been learning. And at the end of last year, I transitioned from teaching full time and I came into doing my business full time. And so that's how Be the Bank Consulting was born.
Wow. I love that. I do. I love how he gives us those signs. And entrepreneurship, I mean, I know you can agree with me, is so fun. It is so fun to leave the corporate world or the world that you came from, to be your own boss and to make your own decisions. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that.
Yes.
You know, more than what you ever think that there is, but it's an amazing journey. It's an amazing opportunity to be able to work with the various different types of people, of all walks of life. And then, you know, like we've met, I mean, because instantly when we met the other day, I was like, my heart and, you know, just bears with yours, you know, my spirit bears witness with your spirit. But, you know, your company, it places a significant emphasis on education and educating individuals about financial literacy. And I have to tell you, that is so lacking in this world today.
It is.
There's so many that are growing up through education, through grade school, high school, college. So many don't even know. When I was in banking myself, it was amazing how many people did not even know how to balance a checkbook. They were always going on, well, what's my balance? Well, the ATM said I had this amount. That's what they go on. And so I love it that you're educating people on financial literacy. But why do you believe that this education is lacking, especially in, certain communities? And how do you address this gap?
Well, one of the reasons when I formed my company, God showed me that I went from teaching people how to save lives literally to teaching them how to save themselves financially. And this education, like you mentioned, is not provided in schools, especially in our public schools, even in private schools. My son went to private school for up to 5th grade, and this information was not provided. And for middle class communities and for lower class communities, it is information that is available, but we don't know about it. So one of my goals is to make sure that these communities have that information to be able to make the best decisions for their future. Because the information is simple. Something as simple as having a life insurance policy. For me, when I got my first life insurance policy, is because I had my son and I wanted him to make sure if I died, he would be taken care of. And that's just the beginning. That's just the bare minimum of what you want. But this education is not available, or an understanding of why that is important is not readily available. Just knowing that you can protect your loved ones so that they don't have to struggle. Right? When somebody passes away, there's a period of grief, there's a period of mourning and adjustment that is needed. And having a little bit of a financial kind of pillow to fall on is good, because that financial piece has always been removed when somebody passes away. And so I always want to make sure that people are aware of that at the bare minimum. And then we go into different strategies of not just death, because it is used for life.
Right. One of the things that continues to amaze me even today is the lack, like you say, the lack of preparation they're not even taught. Like, we're talking about the educational process. They're not even taught about how to take care of those that they're birthing today for when they're older, or what happens to them. How are they going to take care of their kids? And so, but when you do have those conversations, and we're going to talk about more of your products here in a little bit, but when you have those conversations with them, and life insurance is so critical. I mean, I know people that when their spouse passes away, had they not had life insurance, I don't know how the other would have survived. But then when you go to have the conversation with them about life insurance, they think they can't afford the $30, the $50, the $70 a month that they need to set aside for the life insurance. And I'm like, you can't afford not. It's like coaching. You can't afford not to have a coach, and you cannot afford not to have life insurance. You have to have that. Just like retirement, you have to have that. Otherwise, if something happens, what in the world are you going to do? So, I mean, your business is so critical today, but how do you feel that your services challenge the conventional wisdom around finance and the retirement planning?
Well, one of the main things is we need to learn how to save, and we need to learn how to prepare. But we've been taught traditionally there's only kind of one way to do it. So using 401k, putting your money in a savings account, or using the stock market. And those are definitely options we can use, but those are not always the best options for every single person. There's options that are great for one person that will not be the same great options for somebody else. So everything has to be individualized, right? And life insurance, because you use life insurance for living purposes, right? We all die. So yes, we just talked about that. Get life insurance for when you pass away, but that's not for you. That's for your family to enjoy. Right.
Right.
Although there's some people who have the feeling that they don't need to leave their family any money. At least leave enough for burial expenses. If you're not going to take care of anything else, at least, you know, the cost to bury somebody, I'm in California, is probably between 10 to 15,000. And that's for something very, very simple. So at the minimum, definitely do that. But it's important to know how to use it for living purposes. So for your retirement planning, how can you plan for your retirement planning and make sure your money will not run out? What we do forget is when you put your money in a 401k, is it guaranteed when you retire that you will outlive that money? A lot of times what people find is they don't outlive that money. And in 10, 15 years, we have our elderly now having to go back into the workforce to be able to supplement that income. What I want to ensure is from a young age, as young as possible, because you can actually get life insurance on somebody as young as 2 weeks old. So imagine if you had a 2-week-old and you started planning and preparing for their future while they were 2 weeks. This is information we don't know. I just learned this when I got my license. I learned this over the last year and a half. So it's very, very important to know that there's so many options. And the key is to not run out of money. So is a 401k the best? It might be good for a short period of time, but 401ks and other IRAs are also exposed to the market. So we've had a lot of fluctuations recently when COVID hit. I know somebody who lost over $400,000 from their portfolio in 2-3 months. That is a lot of money to lose to have to then make up for your retirement. And there are people who do not have that kind of money to lose. So the key is you never want to lose money, right? Warren Buffett said, rule number 1, never lose money.
Never
rule
lose
number
money.
2, don't forget
Never
rule
lose.
number 1, never lose money.
That's exactly right.
So that is the key. Yes. So always making sure you're protecting yourself for the future. My grandfather, although he was in Kenya, lived to 107 years old. Okay. That means if I'm living to 107, I want to make sure my income will last that long or longer.
Yeah. Wow. So how many people do you know? You probably can't count them, but how many people do you know that have a 401k that have had unfortunate circumstances happen? Illnesses have taken place, accidents have happened, and they've had to get into their 401k to live on before retirement, or even when retirement comes, because they've had to pay for these illnesses that have taken place. And so if you don't have those things, number one, you hope those things never happen. But number two, if you don't have them, what is your plan B? What is your plan A? But more importantly, what is your plan B? And so, you know, you have to have something. One of the things I'm so thankful. I thank the good Lord for his wisdom, honestly. I don't even know I don't remember this far back, whether or not someone told us. I don't remember anyone telling us, or if my husband and I just had the wisdom. But I remember, Njoki, when I learned that I got pregnant with our son, the very month that I learned that we were having a child, I opened a savings account, just a regular savings account. And we decided an amount that we could put back. And we set it up on an auto transfer. And that auto transfer took place every single month, like it was a car payment or a house payment. And we never missed, and we never took from that. And that payment continued until he was way out of college. It continued for years. Now, what happened was there were strategic things that took place throughout all of those years, from teaching him how to use a debit card, teaching him how to operate a checking account. We took money from that. We bought bonds. We bought stock. It didn't stay in a quote savings account. We were investors, and he had a life insurance policy, and he had all these things. But I'm so thankful that we knew, and we taught him the principles of that. And, you know, then when he was out of college, he was able then to take that and invest in his first home. And so, And so, you know, and so today he's a saver. And so, but had we not started with the number one principle of putting back, it would have never happened. And then when we were saving for retirement, we were always like, you have to put back as much as you can afford to live without, so that you have for one day. And again, I don't remember. Did somebody educate us about that, or did we have God-given wisdom to do that? And so people like you that are teaching, that's when I told you that when I found out what you do, and I kept saying, I have to bring you on the podcast. You have to teach this to my audience. And when I was in banking, I tried to teach that to the people that I mentored there. You put back as much as you could put back, even though it's way beyond the matching. You have to have money to live on someday. And so it's so important, so important. So, so life insurance, it has multiple facets. Can you break down the various uses of life insurance for wealth building and asset protection and anything else that you wish to cover? Because I think that that too is important for the audience to hear.
Yes, definitely. Now, most of us know about term life insurance. And term life insurance is there. It's like renting a car. You rent it for a short period of time, right? So you're renting the insurance, right? Or renting a home. So it's there for 10, 15, 20, or 30 years. Usually there's no cash accumulation, right? You can get some of the funds back that you put into it, but that is only for limited term. And that is good. At the minimum, at the bare minimum, get a term life insurance policy to make sure that your family is taken care of after you pass away. Now, after that, let's start talking about using life insurance for life. You can use life insurance to actually save up for your retirement. You can use life insurance to help fund your business. You can use life insurance to help for college planning. You can use life insurance as your emergency fund. Now, the beauty is when you put this money in a life insurance cash value policy is it accumulates interest, right? And there's also what we call a zero floor, which means you will never lose that money, which means your principal is always protected. So even if the market is fluctuating, you will never lose your money, right? And after it accumulates for 1 year, that principal is locked in, whatever that interest is, it's locked in. And so the next year you start from there. So if it was 100,000, it goes to 110,000. The next year you start with 110,000. There's this beautiful thing called the eighth wonder of the world, which is compound interest, which does amazing things for money placed in the right vehicles. And life insurance is one of the best and safest places to place your money. One thing people don't realize is the banks, these big banks, they actually put their money in life insurance policies. That's where they protect their money to. Okay. So this is for everybody. It is not only for the wealthy. If you can save, for example, $5 a day. If you go to Starbucks every day and you decide, you know what? This is more important. I will save $5 a day, $150 a month. You can go ahead and open a life insurance policy that starts accumulating cash value. Now, my company name, Be the Bank Consulting, I absolutely fell in love with this when I found out about it. When you accumulate that cash value, you can borrow it. And when you borrow it to pay for college, when you borrow it to purchase that car, I want you to pay it back. I want you to pay yourself back. And people are like, well, why do I pay myself back? The key is if you want to borrow that money from a bank, guess what? You have to pay the bank back.
That's
Well,
right.
treat yourself like a bank, right? That's your money. That's your hard-earned money. So pay yourself back. And that way your money's still accumulating and you have access to it. So there's so many things you can do. Now, life insurance also gives you what we call living benefits, right? So if you are going to get any life insurance policy, please make sure it has living benefits. And these benefits cover for terminal, critical, and chronic illnesses. For terminal illnesses, depending on the policy, you can get 80 or 90% of your death benefit upfront. So imagine if you were given less than 2 years to live. However, you have an insurance policy and you can get that 800,000 upfront and be able to live and take care of whatever you need to take care of. There is somebody in our company who was diagnosed with cancer. She had a life insurance policy. She took $600,000 out. She went. However, she survived. So guess what? She put the rest of the money back and continues. And she is still alive today. So there's so many benefits, right? And that's for terminal. If you have a critical or chronic illness, you can access part of your life insurance policy and it will help cover some of those bills over a period of about 5 years. So there's so many benefits to having a life insurance policy while you are still alive. Now, when's the best time to get life insurance? The younger you are, the better it is to get a life insurance policy. However, at any age, you can go ahead and get a life insurance policy. Make sure you are protected and always making sure that your loved ones are protected.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree. 100%. Again, I cannot stress how important it is. You know, one of the things through COVID, I didn't use a life insurance, used another means of our investments. But while you're talking about the payback feature, during COVID, had we not had those opportunities, I don't know that I would be sitting here in front of you today. But, you know, while so many companies were either going out of business, laying people off, I kept my team. You know, the banks, we were doing bank consulting at that point in time. And we were not able to go into the banks and consult because the banks shut their doors. But I made a decision. I did not want to let my team go. I wanted to keep them on. And so paying those high payrolls and everything else that we had to take care of to run the business, we're still going out. And we were doing well at the time, but it didn't take long. I mean, banks were closed, a year, a little longer than a year. Well, anyway, I had to borrow, you know, and I didn't want to go to a bank to borrow. So I went to our own personal investments to borrow. And like you say, I wanted to pay back because that was money I took from ourselves. And so I made that decision to keep my team on. I wanted to be a great employer and keep them on and not reduce, you know, and continue to pay. And anyway, I took from there, borrowed it from there, and paying back today, still paying back today what I took back. But I don't have much longer to go until that will all be paid back. But had I not had that opportunity to do that, then I wouldn't be recording this podcast today. So thankful for those opportunities. So let's talk about debt elimination. The concept of accelerated debt elimination without life changes is fascinating. So can you share how this works and provide some examples to our listeners so that they can understand what that is and how that works?
Yes. So I've partnered with a company that does debt. I like to call it debt transformation, right? Because sometimes people feel debt elimination and there's a little bit of nervousness. There's a lot of shame that comes with it.
Yeah.
So with debt transformation, what happens is you are able to eliminate between 50 to 70% of your interest. And you'll notice a lot of times when we're making payments to things, most of the payments are usually going to interest. So with the debt elimination or debt transformation, you actually eliminate the interest, which means you're affecting your principal, which in essence means you will be paying off that debt a lot quicker. Okay? Now, when this is happening, for example, let's say for your mortgage, let's take mortgage payments, for example. When you look at your truth in lending statement for a 30-year mortgage, when you get your mortgage, you're told your interest rate is 7%. Interest rate's a little bit high right now. If you have an interest rate of 70% or 7%, not 70%, but when you make your first mortgage payment and you actually look at your statement, you will notice that most of that payment went to interest. Now, when you calculate it, that is a lot more than 7%. And the truth is, over the first 10, 15 years, most of your mortgage payments actually go to pay down the interest. Because why? The banks always have to get their money back first. So the principle is learn how to eliminate that interest and keep that money in your pocket. So for your 30-year mortgage, if you could pay off your 30-year mortgage in 15 years without having to change your lifestyle, we do not want you to change your lifestyle. Why? If I have you on a strict budget, how long will you stick to it? Probably not long. So if you like golfing, go golfing. If you like going to the movies every week, keep going to the movies every week. If you have extra in your budget, that is what we are working with. That way you can stick to this. So you're able to eliminate your debt a lot more quickly. On average, it's less than 10 years, you would be able to pay off your mortgage and even your student loans. Because a lot of people right now are struggling with student loan debt and also with credit card debt. Okay? So we help you be able to eliminate this. Now, the key is it is very hard to create wealth if you're stuck in a debt cycle. Okay? So we need to start eliminating that debt and transforming that debt. So imagine that 15 years of mortgage payments that you don't have to pay anymore. I live in California. I am going to use a very, 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 very low number for the mortgage and say $3,000 a month because that's not realistic. I live in the Bay Area. You're not going to get anything for $3,000 a month. So if you could save $3,000 a month for 15 years, what can you do with that money? Start dreaming of the impact that could have on your future. If you could, instead of saving $200 a month, be able to save $3,000 a month towards your retirement, what can that be? How much wealth would you be able to build? So the key is let's get out of debt, let's transform it, and let it start creating our wealth.
Wow, that's powerful. That's really powerful. And so speaking of wealth, I want to talk about generational wealth. And we could spend the entire podcast just on generational wealth. Mm-hmm. But that's a term that we hear, really often. But I'd like to hear in your own words, why is generational wealth essential? And we've talked about taking care of your spouse, taking care of your loved ones once you're gone. But I kind of look at generational wealth a little bit differently. But how does Be the Bank Consulting assist their clients in achieving generational wealth? And then I would even say, if you can, even afterwards, the banker in me likes to take care of once you're gone. What does that process look like afterwards? There's so much that can happen afterwards if it's not done correctly.
Right.
How do you guys help your clients?
So once you get a life insurance policy, one of the most important things is to make sure you're protected and your family's protected, right? So once you start accumulating assets, then we recommend you put those assets in a trust so that you make sure that your family is the one that's going to access it and not the court systems and not the lawyers. So you want to make sure it stays within your family. That's who you're creating this for, not for everybody else. You want to create it for your family. So in my eyes, generational wealth, I want to make sure my children are taken care of. I want to make sure I give my children a hand up or a leg up. Right. But I also want to make sure their children are also taken care of. And the things, the dreams that I'm starting to build, the visions that God has given me to start to implement, I don't want those to die because I died. I don't want those to die because my children died. I want those to continue. The impact that needs to be made for generations. In the Bible it says, when we're making an impact, it's not for now. We're making an impact for generations to generations to generations. So we want the impact to be felt long term. So when you create these programs, putting your assets into a trust makes sure it's protected. So for example, if I pass away and I leave my children $1 million, they don't need to use $1 million. Hopefully they will have learned enough from me, because sometimes kids don't listen. But hopefully they will have learned enough and put the principles in place. Now, if you take that $1 million and put half of it or 3/4 of it into another life insurance policy that will now produce $5 million, okay, that still has cash value, and you can access that cash value whenever you choose to. Now, when they pass away, that $5 million will probably have grown to even 10 or 15 million.
Yes.
Now, that is what they're passing on to their children. Now, all of these are left in a trust, right? So they have access to it if needed, but otherwise you let it keep growing. And so that is how we make sure we're protecting our wealth. It's not just for right now. Right now is great, but that's not what we're called for. Right? We're called to impact the future. So to impact our children, our children's children, and it just keeps going for generations. So to me, that's how I look at generational. My parents did a really good job of giving me a great foundation. And so I want to improve on that. And I always say there's a lot of things that God has given me to do, and I need to be able to accomplish them. And I need my kids to be able to keep going with them. And if they choose to do something different, that's okay. But at least my legacy will still be there.
Yes. I love your response to that, because it's so right on to the same thing that I think, because sometimes it happens a little bit differently in that people are given lump sums of just millions of dollars. And if they don't know how to handle it responsibly in a very short time, if they didn't, I'm going to say, grow up and learn the principles of financial literacy,
yes,
they don't know how to manage it, and it's gone. Those millions of dollars are gone within a very short time frame because they're out vacationing. They've bought multiple homes. They've bought boats. They've bought cars. They've bought big homes, and they've done all of these things.
Right.
And then their legacy is gone. There is no legacy left for their children,
Right.
which breaks my heart. I saw that so many times in my career. And I loved working with the trust department and loved referring people to the trust department because I knew, I even worked in the trust department at one point in time. And I saw and I knew the things that were going to happen if it was managed appropriately. And on a monthly basis, these individuals got X amount of dollars to spend, like it was a monthly retirement check or paycheck, and it was managed. And that is the way that I see generational wealth today, is that we set it up in the way that we want to see it managed long term, so that we know how it's going to be taken care of, and it's not going to fly away in the wind with a hurricane and be gone. So yes, I mean, I do love today spending some of that with my kids and seeing them enjoying it while we're alive. But I also want to know that someday, for years down the road, that it's also going to be there. So I love your response to that. You also mentioned, communities that are disproportionately affected by the lack of financial education. We talked about that earlier on in the podcast. How do you and Be the Bank Consulting aim to address and rectify this imbalance? Do you guys have a plan for that?
So right now, one of my goals is to create a financial literacy program, and I want to start with churches. That's where I want to start in our community, because a lot of people, we have all kind of ranges attending churches. And if we start educating, and I used to have this discussion with my friend, like, what is the best age to start educating our children on finances? Right? He had one answer, a little bit older, but I would like to get them as young as 5 years old. Kindergarten.
See, we're so right on.
Yes. Right when they're little sponges and they can absorb this information and start using it. So one of my goals is to create a program where I can go into churches or create a web series where we'll talk to churches and start educating our members, our congregations, because the more community, that's where community is.
Yes.
Right. And not just, it doesn't have to be a Christian church, but anywhere where people gather. But I love church. I've been in church for a long time. And so that's where I feel that I'll start. I'll start with the churches and then grow from there, because our children don't stay at church. Our children go to school. So if we can start also then taking this education to public schools and private schools, offering one class a month, just a simple class, right? How money works, how to balance that checkbook, right? What money looks like. If you get money for your birthday, do you need to go spend it all? Right? Is it itching to come out of your hands? Why don't you take 50% of it and save it, right? Give your 10% and then you can spend the other 50%. Let's start that. And let's start making this something fun for kids to do and not feel like they're being deprived, right? So let's show them how this could work for their future, right? And if they want to save for that car, if they want to save for that iPad, I don't have to buy it for them. Right? Do some chores, give, save, spend. And then here, see, you bought your iPad, right? And so it just encourages children and it gives them that sense of responsibility from a younger age to become responsible adults. Because the sooner children start learning how money works and working for that money, then they are more inclined to be a little bit more sensitive when they're getting older and be more responsible. So when you're 16 and you get a job, you're not going to be running to buy the what did they buy? Basketball shoes, right? You're not going to be running to spend all your money for concert tickets. You can save up to do that. Definitely don't deprive yourself, but that should not be your first instinct to spend.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. We did that too. I mean, we had the envelope system, back then.
Yes.
When my child was young, we did that too. I mean, he was able to spend some, save some, and give some, for his offering.
Yes.
Yeah. And it worked. And oh my goodness, I love that. I love that. So I really, to start wrapping, all of this up, I would love to go into the 5-year retirement plan and how that works and tax hikes. But I'm going to ask you to share where people can reach out with you. But I want to ask one last question and then let you provide where people can reach out to you. But who do you believe can benefit most from Be the Bank consulting services? And, what kind of transformation can they expect to see from their financial well-being?
I believe anybody and everybody can actually benefit from Be the Bank consulting. I have a heart for single moms because I'm a single mom. I was married for 20 years, but I'm a single mom. So I have a heart for single moms and really moms in general, because sometimes we don't have the knowledge or we don't have that good understanding of our finances. So I love working with moms, making sure they have that peace of mind, because to me, that is so important. I want to make sure my kids are taken care of. I may not be able to always pick who takes care of my kids, but I want to know when I pass away, my children will be well taken care of, right? At least there will be no financial headache there at all. So moms have my heart. Small business owners, I've worked with in businesses where the small business owners were struggling a little bit and weren't able to even save for their own retirement. So I also have a heart for that, because I can see how hard they've worked and not be able to save for their future. So those two are some of my soft spots with people. But I am open to helping anybody who wants to be more financially empowered. That is my key. I always tell people this, and I will say it here. It might not be the best marketing technique, but you don't have to work with me. If I give you the knowledge and you're able to make the best decision for you and your family, it does not have to be with me. All I want to do is make sure that you are making the best decision for you and for your family.
I think that's a smart decision. I always say the same thing. I may not be the right person for you, may not be the right coach for you. I may not be the right trainer for you. But if I can give you one tool that can help move you forward, that's what I'm here for. But if there's somebody better out there that can move you where you need to be, then that's the right person for you. But if I can impact a life in one way, I've met my purpose. And I feel like that's what God's put me on this earth to do, is to impact lives. And if I can impact them with one tool, one sentence, one word of encouragement, then I've done what my purpose is. And so I love it when I see people like you that are passionate to help people. This world is in debt. Our country is in debt. And we need help. And so, people that can teach financial literacy, I taught finances in a Sunday school class many years ago. And it's needed. It's needed. It's needed in our churches. It's needed in our schools. It's needed online. It's needed everywhere. So I do agree with you. Anybody can benefit from the consulting, the coaching, the training. And so I would encourage anyone that needs to be considering, the life insurance, the, retirement, they need accelerated debt consolidation, those things are the services that you have to offer, to at least reach out and have a call with you. And so that leads me to, where can they reach you, Njoki, on social, if they want to have a conversation with you?
So you can reach me on my website, bethebankconsulting.com. You can always send me an email, bethebankconsulting@gmail.com, or Njoki@bethebankconsulting. I am on TikTok. I am on Instagram at Njoki K818. So you can find me there. You can find me at Facebook at Be the Bank Consulting. And again, it's a free consultation. I don't charge to give you the information to help you make the best decision for you.
Perfect. Well, we have those links, and so we will put them in the show notes as well. And so for those of you that are listening today, I highly encourage that as you are listening to the podcast on your favorite channel, or you're watching this from YouTube, that you put your favorite comments as you're watching or listening. So if you've not already subscribed, please do so. We would appreciate that. And I'm so thankful that you came on today to talk to my audience. I think, again, this is a subject that is needed in the world today. So from the very bottom of my heart, thank you for being here.
I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. This was absolutely amazing. I'm so glad that I got to meet you. We shared a good time, and this is good. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. And for all of you listeners, until next week, have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon on the very next episode of Influence and Growth Mastery.